Hello, Kaizeners, to the Kaizen Podcast. As you see, I'm again not in the studio. I'm somewhere else. Actually, similar to the podcast that we had before with Antonio and Riza, which were also in English. And I took the advantage that we are in a regional business meeting with some of our colleagues in Germany to invite to the podcast one of my colleagues, Bruno Fabiano, the business unit leader from Kaizen Institute Italy. Welcome, Bruno, to the podcast.
Thank you, Alex.
So, Bruno, I always start the podcast for our audience to understand who am I talking with. So always my first question is, who is Bruno Fabiano?
This is a difficult question, but Bruno is a father, husband, and he's an engineer who works on change. So instead of building houses, build changes. And in my life, I encountered Kaizen, and at the beginning it was just, let's say, a strange name to identify a tool. But after a while, it becomes a way of life. So to improve every day and to help everyone and everything we met every day to improve.
So let's say that Kaizen a little bit changed your life.
Yes.
But then I would like to understand how this started. So how you entered the world of Kaizen. What's the story behind?
So the story behind is quite long, because when I was graduated, I made the final thesis at university in ST microelectronics. So I was focusing on the design of electronics board and components, and so had a very narrow vision about products and industry in general. Then I had a chance, and the chance was to work for the military army as an officer in the technical side. And so I discovered that there was a world around the products and the technical feature of electronic components. And so I started to look at the quality assurance, because at that time was the mainstream, so quality assurance and then total quality. And I made a master on total quality management. And after that, I started working in two industrial companies as a quality assurance manager. And that was the beginning of my career in quality, because I changed my path from technical side to quality. Quality means organization. And so after a while, I switched to consulting, so business consulting. And I did for many years until I had a friend who said, "Hi, Bruno, you know, in my past company, we had consultant coming from France, at that time was from France, and they are very strange, but they are very good. You should meet them." And so I met these consultants that were Kaizen Institute France. And I remember the first meeting was in France, Rue Saint-Jacques 45, Paris. And when I entered this, I asked to take part to a meeting with them. And it was funny, because at that time I was used to wear a jacket, tie, and everything was perfect. And I entered this office, and there was a lot of people wearing a casual shirt, one guy with a ponytail, and there was a Japanese guy that after became my sensei for the introduction, that was making something with post-it on the desk where he was sitting. And so I said, okay, this is an environment that I like too. And that was my beginning with the Kaizen Institute. At that time, there was no office in Italy. So after a few months, I started the Kaizen Institute Italy with also Carlo, which is my colleague, is a little older than me, more experienced. And that was the starting point with the Kaizen Institute.
How long ago are we talking about?
20 years.
20 years ago.
Yeah, 20
so
years
actually,
ago.
How do you see the change that, in that case, the business unit in Italy, but also the methodology went through all this time? If you remember these times 20 years ago and today, how do you feel about the change in the Kaizen Institute Italy?
When we started, we were focusing on production. So the main experiences were from automotive industry, mainly in the supply chain. So tier 1, tier 2 components manufacturers. And so for the ones who knows the automotive industry, in the car manufacturing, there is one car going out of the plant every minute, more or less. So all the processes must have the same, we call it takt time. So one seat every minute, one 4 wheels every minute, and so on. And that was the main, let's say, work at that time. But along those years, we discovered that the method, the process, the mindset is the same in every process. So it doesn't matter if it's production or product development or the creative process for luxury bags, for instance, or in a design studio, because the ingredients are the same. There are people, there are technologies, and there are processes to be done.
Actually, let me deep dive a bit on this topic that you mentioned, luxury. You said that you also are doing this, and business of luxury is also a business where you can do Kaizen because it has processes, right? Can you tell us some project that you've done in that business? Because for a person now trying to imagine some methodology, Kaizen methodology coming from automotive and from the manufacturing sector to the luxury sector, what are actually the differences that you see when delivering Kaizen in luxury industry?
Yes. The main differences are in the way people work. So in the luxury industries, there is a special condition which is linked to the way they need to produce goods. So just to make an example, if you have to manufacture shoes, you have leather, but the leather is not the same all the time. So what happens is that you have to adapt the pressure of the fingers or the movement of the hands to the quality of leather that you have in hands. It means if we go to the automotive, that you have to change the work cycle, the standard work every time. And so this is something that can be realized only if you increase the what they call savoir-faire, so the skill of the person, because you need to train the person to perceive the differences and adapt the cycle, the work cycle. So this is against the automotive industry at all. But this is very important. For instance, last year we supported one of the major brands in leather goods in the startup of a new plant in the south of Italy. And that new plant went from 0 to 300 workers in less than 1 year. It means that the main driver for the scale-up was the capability to train the people. It is impossible to train 300 person that comes from a so special work, which like for leather bags, luxury leather bags. And so what we did was to apply one method, which is training within the industry, that focus on the way people behave at work, and to go in a process that we call train the trainers. So we make what we call the maestro. Maestro means one guy or a lady who can train 4 or 5 people at a time, like in Rinascimento, like in a bottega rinascimentale. So it's a workshop where you can see the hands, how they move, you can see the pressure that they apply and so on, and you learn the art. In fact, is the mixture between art and the industry. And we call this model, because at the end we made a reflection and become a model, industrial artisan. So it's a craftsmanship organized. So you must keep this ability to adapt your work cycle to the leather that you have in the hands, but in an organized way, because you need to produce a certain amount of goods, keep the right quality and so on. And so the mix of the those two different souls of work are very successful, and so the initiative was really good. Also for the territory, because one of the main constraints in this kind of industry is the availability of people to work.
It's a very specific kind of work, as you made, an artisan work. So also the skills of the person are key when working. So you need to find the right people, I understand.
The challenge was to have average people and to have a system to increase their skills. Exactly. Through maestro, so for each section of the lines we had maestro, and we had one team leader that was able not to do the work but to organize the flow of materials, and so they organize the flow of work.
So let me ask you, in that type of industry, probably there are similar industries that are these artisan side that you also work with, but how do you change also the culture or the mindset from the top management? Because I understand that in terms of the processes, a luxury brand has same type of manufacturing processes that other brands can have, just it changes the product and maybe the quality that you need to deliver and so on. But the mindset of the management into going to a Kaizen methodology, which is not very known in that type of industry, what was the change that you've seen in the mindset of these people?
Yeah. Thank you for the question. We had two different steps. The first one was, let's say, some difficulty to understand what we were proposing. And so we said, okay, let us do a pilot. So we took the best line and we said, we want to improve this line. And the end result of this pilot was 20% improvement in productivity. So that was the start point. After that, we had a common challenge that was to keep up the race in production rate. And so the key challenge was to keep the daily production rate with 0 defects. Okay. So we had the same goal, and we adapted all the tools of the Kaizen toolbox to this specific situation. Just to make an example, in the leather goods is quite impossible. Impossible is a word that I would not pronounce, to have 0 defect. So we fixed one level of defects that was very small, minimum, but was not 0. 0 is the Toyota, let's say, the true north. But why? Because the focus was not on 0, but was on the speed of solution of each problem. Because you can have a problem for the leather, for the people, for one section of the line. So the true north, in that case, was the speed of resolution. So we said, in one day, we need to fix one specific problem. Then we will have another one, but it's another story. So we compete on the speed of problem solving. And that was let's say, one key point of the second step. The first one, as I said, was a pilot, successful pilot. The second one was to support the real goal of the entire organization.
So I understand that a little bit the mindset change is the same as in any other industry, right? So like to focus the management on a specific target, to make the project a strategic priority, and to focus on what are the business priorities or business KPIs that you need to impact. It's not anything related to the let's say the sector, in this case the luxury brand. I understand it's related to that.
Yes. You catch the point, and I can add that this is true also outside the luxury industry, because at the beginning, when I started working in improvement, and I was focusing on the tools. So I said, here we have to do 5S, here as MED to reduce the setup time. Now we don't use anymore this kind of, let's say, words, because the goal is the same for the organization. So we need, just to make another example, to double the production in the same area. This is the goal. Then we use whatever we need to catch this goal. And this is very important because in this way we have the same language, the same message from the owner, the management, and the workers. And that allow all the people to give their best to improve and to overcome any problem that can arise.
So it's kind of changing from a tool-based mentality to a creating value mentality in a way. Right?
To give a purpose to people.
Exactly.
And is the same. Maybe someone can read this purpose as a survival one, I come here just to work. Someone can see in this purpose an improvement in career, so in salary, and someone else can see as a success in his professional history. When you put all together in the same direction, there is a special power that can reach let's say the target and overcome also the target.
So Bruno, let me make you a question related to what we talked, not looking into luxury industry now, looking in general in all the sectors. If you have, for example, we have now a CEO watching us, what would you be your approach to implementing Kaizen? What is the way for him to do it if he never heard of it before?
Yes, the first question was, in this case, in my opinion, what is your pain? So what is that retain you to sleep at night? Maybe is the safety, maybe is to be not able to fulfill some special order or something else. Then we started to deploy this pain in a goal and then in specific targets. And Kaizen is a mindset that and a system that allows to put the best people in his organization around this problem, which is linked to the pain that he said, and there is a method structured to solve the problem. So to make improvements and improvements and improvements until the problem is solved or at least reduced. Mm-hmm. And the other point is the learning, because during this path, people in the organization learn how to tackle these kind of problems and learn more about the problems. So there is the starting point for continuous improvement.
Bruno, so I would like to close, we're going to the last part of the podcast, and I always like to finish on a more personal part. So I always like to ask my guest to tell us some anecdote, something related to Kaizen in professional, private life, something that happened to him and stayed with him forever. So in your case, is there any anecdote that happened to you throughout your career in Kaizen?
Yes, I have one anecdote that sometimes I tell also to my colleagues and to my team. And it was this one. We were working in a plant. There was a department that make power transmission, so big, heavy stuff. And we were working on a section of one line where all the components are loaded on the line to make the assembly. As usual, the goal was to simplify the work, so to reduce the waste. In this case, it was movement around this line to prepare the kit of components. And we spent at least half a day discussing about the improvement of this part of the line. Then we stopped because there were some works to be done, civil works in the plant. And so we moved on one side where there was one bench on a corner, and we had in the schedule to do some 5S on this bench. The bench was heavy because every component was heavy. And so when we started to look at this bench, and so what is needed, what is not, take out, immediately the team was eager to do things. So they started to unlock the bench from the floor, to put away everything, to disassemble the bench itself. So in half an hour, everything was done. And they said, okay, now you have been very good. When we come back to the line, because the works finish, they were changed. So in half an hour, they changed the line. So what my learning was that the experience of change in a more easy part of the plant, that was this bench that was isolated, activated the team for changing on the main line.
Kind of a metaphor, right? Between
Exactly, but not by words, because I was trying to explain and explain. But just put people at work, they will make, it's like a staircase. You make one step and then another one and then another one. And our role is to provide steps at the right age for those people in those moments.
Great, Bruno. So thank you, first of all, for being here with me, spending some time talking about your journey and about Kaizen. I always like to close the podcast letting my guest make a farewell to close the episode. So just for our audience, we'll come back soon with the next episodes already in Polish. So stay tuned and we will see you soon. So Bruno, anything that you would like to share as a final statement?
Yeah, the final statement for me is 1% better every day. So this is the meaning of Kaizen, and it's possible.